Are you a business owner or employee who needs to network but is terrified of walking into a room full of people you don't know? Are you afraid of being left out of conversations or being awkward in the conversations you do have? Your tour guide, Faithann, is here to walk alongside you through the networking terrain, offering tips and tricks to network with ease. Grab your sunscreen and suitcase. Faithann is ready. Are you?
Welcome to this episode of the Networkers Tour Guide podcast. I'm your host, Faithann. You've found the place where you can get your networking questions answered one episode at a time. This week's episode is a solo episode. What happens after the networking event? Well, what happens after the networking event that you attend depends a lot on how intentional and present you were during the networking event. So, in this episode, we're going to talk about what to say after the event, who to say it to, three mistakes people make after networking, when to let go versus when to re engage, and finally, how to turn one conversation into three opportunities. In order to squeeze the most you can out of every networking meeting that you attend and to extend the life of that meeting, while you're in that meeting, it's so important to be listening, actively listening. In the book Buying Signals, Nikki Rausch talks about four levels of listening. And the second level she talks about, she gives a really good analogy, and I'm going to give it to you. She said, you can't have a level of listening where it's like a game of jump rope, where all you're doing is waiting for your turn to jump in. That kind of listening, which I think sometimes we do, if we're not real careful, we can get into this pattern of only listening so that we're waiting for that pause so that we can say what we're going to say. When we're in networking meetings and we're having conversations, both during our open networking where we're walking around the room and choosing the conversations we want to be in, or even during the introduction time that's more formal and we're listening. The purpose of that is really to be listening, not just waiting for our turn to say something. Actively listening, and it can be challenging, especially when the introduction time of your meeting, there could be 30 to 40 people at a time, each introducing themselves. And this is the time where, if you're not careful, your mind is going to wander. You're going to be thinking about dinner. You might be thinking about, did I put that load of laundry in before I left? You might be thinking about the emails you need to reply to. I want you to think of this introduction time, even if it's on the longer side, as the opportunity for you to have future conversations with people. The more active that you listen during the introduction time, even if it's a lot of people, you're going to find follow up conversations a little easier the more you listen. And when I am listening to people give their introduction, the more active I listen, the more somebody will come to my mind that I might want to connect them to later. And if we're talking about what happens after the networking event, making connections for people is a great way to talk to people after the event. I mean, when you can say to somebody, I have a possible referral for you, they're going to be interested in that conversation after the meeting. When you're coming to them saying, I remember that when you were introducing yourself, you said you were looking for this kind of person. And as you were talking, I think I may have a possible introduction that I could make on your behalf. And if you want to send that a day later, that's going to be interesting for somebody. That email is going to pique their curiosity. So it comes from listening the entire time when you're in that meeting, asking yourself before you walk in the room, what opportunities are here for me? And what opportunities do I have for others that I just don't know about yet? And in order to answer both of those questions in your own mind, you gotta be listening, actively listening. So let's talk about what you say after the networking meeting when you want to reach out to people. I was listening back to episode 2 of this podcast, and I said in that episode, don't feel obligated to reach out to every single person in the room, especially if you're attending multiple networking meetings a week or a month. It's too many people. So the listening will help you filter who you want to talk to, and who do you want to get to know better after the event. The biggest mistake that I see, well, there's two. The first mistake people make when they want to have one to ones, and one to ones are those individual meetings, the meeting you have with one person that you generally, these come from the people you are meeting at networking events. You want to have coffee, you want to learn more about their business, and you would love the opportunity to tell them about your business. One of the biggest mistakes in reaching out is people aren't clear as to where they connected with you first. So then we send our people on scavenger hunts. And I know I've said this before, scavenger hunts are great for birthday parties, for 10-year-old birthday parties. They're terrible for business owners who are busy and have too much on their plate already. So when we reach out, we want to tell the person where we met. Where did we initially see each other? Give that person who's reading the message or the text or the email some context so that they don't have to go on a scavenger hunt. Tell them where you met. And then I also use Nikki Rausch's 3 times technique. This has been a game changer for me. This is the thing that's going to help you get people to agree to meet with you. And I think sometimes we think that we have to be very fancy. We have to do this song and dance. And, the reason why this person is not responding to my email, the reason why they are not responding to me is because I'm not impressive enough. I didn't say the right thing in the email. I wasn't memorable enough when we spoke. And often that's not the case. What's really the case, it's just human nature, is that we want things easy. As a reader of a message, a text, or an email, I want easy. So if you want me to do something, you have to make it easy for me, or I'm just going to go on to the other 97 emails that are in my inbox, the other obligations that are waiting for me. So Nikki Rausch teaches a 3 times technique, and it's simple. You don't have to do a song and dance. It's just so simple. But what it does is it makes it easy for that person who's reading the message to take action. And so what she teaches is that when you're asking someone for their time, you tell them the 3 times, the 3 days and times that you're available. It can be a range. I'm free on Monday, the 22nd, anytime between 9 and 11 a.m. Or I'm also free on Tuesday, the 23rd, after 4. So you'd give 3 of those instances, either specific times or a range of times. And if you're doing a range, she says put the word anytime between, because if you say I'm free on Tuesday from 9 to 11, then they may think, oh, well, I don't want to meet with Faithann for 2 hours. So that's why you say I'm free on Tuesday anytime between 9 and 11, so that they understand that the range is not the full time that you're asking for them to obligate themselves to you, just a range. When you do this, you just make it so easy for the person to decide, am I free on Monday, the 22nd? Yes or no. If you're asking a lot of people for one-to-ones and you're not getting replies back, try that. Instead of sending them your calendar link and making them do the heavy lifting, send them 3 times. I have a kind of a funny story around this. So a few years ago, I was doing a different podcast, more on a personal podcast, and it was my dad's sermons that we would put up, or that I would put up, and then my sister joined me after about 10 or 15 episodes. I can't remember, but I asked her to join me, and so we were trying to get my uncle, who is a theologian, and so in the Reformed circles, he's well known. He's very well known. So it's very niche, a very specific section of Christianity. And my dad was very instrumental in bringing my uncle to the faith. So I wanted my uncle to come on the podcast and talk about my dad since we were playing my dad's sermons. So he had agreed to come on the podcast, and just even getting him to agree, like me just asking, was something very scary because I didn't know if he would do it. And he said, "Yeah, sure." So we're trying to like schedule it, and I'm texting and he's not really answering, like just being vague. This went on for about a month. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to do the 3 times with him and see if that gets the commitment. I sent him an email and I said, "Hi, Uncle. I'm just checking in, wondering if you're still willing to come on the podcast. If so, here are the times and days that I'm available." I gave him 3 times or 3 days and times, and then said, "Do any of these days, times work for you?" Within 5 minutes, I receive a reply. He had chosen one of my times. Said, "Yep, let's do it on Wednesday at 3." So it works like this 3 times technique works so well in both business and just if you're wanting someone's time for anything, this is a great way to make it easy for them. All right, let's talk about the 3 mistakes that we make after the networking meeting. The first mistake is not thinking about which people do I want to even follow up with. So when you're in the meeting, that's where you're going to be thinking about, does this person pique my interest? Is this a good referral partner for me? Do I like what this person has to say? Could I learn something from this person? Could this person learn something from me? So the first mistake is leaving the networking meeting with really no thought of any follow up with anyone there. Secondly, waiting too long can be a mistake. When you want to ask the people in the room for a one-to-one, or maybe you want to say that you have a possible referral for them, if you wait too long, it's harder for them to place you. The excitement, the energy that was in the networking meeting has worn off. So we want to follow up very quickly. Within 1 to 3 days is a good time frame. The third mistake is not thinking about who would be a good person to invite to this the next time it meets. Always be inviting people to rooms. When you find rooms where things are happening, where the energy is good, the people are warm and friendly, there's other business owners that would benefit from those rooms. So think about who can you invite to those rooms. Now, let's move into when to let go versus when to re-engage. This is a common frustration. I've had it. Other business owners have expressed the same frustration. I've asked this person several times for a one-to-one. I've asked them to somehow connect with me after the meeting, and they've just ghosted me. Here's some strategies to decide when you're going to let go versus you're going to keep trying or pause and re-engage. Let's talk about the re-engagement. So if you have reached out several times, first make sure that you're trying more than one platform. And I talked about this a little bit on episode 2. Like maybe you're trying Facebook Messenger, let's try email instead. And maybe you're trying email, well, maybe a phone call, maybe a Facebook Messenger audio message so that they know there's a message waiting for them. Just their curiosity might drive them to push play because they have no idea what the message says. So you could try that. And if you just can't get any reply, I think you should try 3 times. I think 3 times is good. I do think at some point you have to say, well, I'm going to move on. So if you try 3 times and nothing, you don't have to move on forever, but for now, move on. And then when you see them again, it's okay to start talking to them. Be warm and friendly. You might look at their Facebook or social media and see what's going on in their life if they're sharing about it. If they just came back from Greece, and they're sharing about it online, ask them about their vacation. And then you can just gently ask them if they happen to see your email, your message, and see if that sparks a little bit of re engagement by asking them in person. If you don't see them in person, then social media is still a really good way to try and see if you can re engage with them just by commenting on their posts. And I think the main thing is that let's go ahead and just factor this in. Let's just factor that sometimes you will be reaching out to people and they will not reply. And so if you can mentally factor that in as a normal course of being in business, normal course of networking is that sometimes people ignore your requests to talk to them again, then it's not so hard to just sometimes let things go. When people don't answer you, often it's really not about you, it's about them. Okay? Some people network differently. Some people, for whatever reason, they don't really see networking as a serious business growth tool. So they're going to be at that lunch and you're going to have a great conversation with them. And in their mind, they just happen to like the restaurant and they like the people, but they don't see networking as anything more than just the place I eat lunch. Once a month I go to this restaurant and have lunch with some great people and it just ends there for them. So those people they aren't going to answer your emails. It's not something they're interested in, unfortunately. So that could be play a factor, but factor in that you're going to have those people that won't answer your emails, answer your texts after that networking meeting. Even when you try and re-engage, they're not interested. Just factor it in. So make sure that when you are reaching out, you're clear as to what you want to happen. You're clear about where you met the person. You give them the 3 times. If you're doing all of that, then some of your requests are going to be answered. If you need help with this is something that I help clients do often. We can look at your emails, we can look at the messages you're sending if you need some tweaking or if you need me to say, yeah, maybe not this word, maybe not this thought, maybe just tweak a little bit. I'm happy to do that with you. I will put the discovery call link in the show notes and you can click on that and we can talk about if it might make sense for us to do something like that together, where I look at your communication and give you some pointers and tips that you can use right away for getting people to reply. Let's end this episode with some thoughts around how to turn one conversation into 3 opportunities. The first way you can turn one conversation into an opportunity is you can tell client stories. I know I've talked about this on the podcast before. Tell stories of how you've helped your clients from their perspective. Susie was able to and tell the results she was able to achieve because you came in and waved your magic wand and helped her get unstuck, or helped her with a new life change, or helped her get something that she couldn't get without you. But you tell it from her perspective. And what that does is it allows the person you're talking to imagine what it would be like if they hired you. Okay. Tell stories of how you've helped your clients from your client's perspective. Here's a second way you can turn a conversation into an opportunity. Ask them what they're struggling with in their business most. Do you have a resource for them? And when you provide that resource, that could lead to a future opportunity. It's building trust. So if you have the business coach that you think they really would benefit from and you make that referral, and then they work with the business coach and have great results, that reflects beautifully on you, which means that you're building trust with that person. And then they could use you in the future. You would be a logical next step when they find themselves in need of what you offer. And finally, maybe the person you're talking to could be of service to you. And what I love about networking is that we feel more accountable to the people who hire us when they've hired us from a networking situation. I have been in networking so long, and I can't tell you how true this is. When I am serving people that I've met in networking rooms, I feel very obligated to deliver for them, to surprise and delight. It's not that I don't feel that for people who find me that I don't know first. It's not that. It's just that you're talking to the person in the room, and they need what you have, and you're saying, I think that I can help you, and you schedule that time. You're much more likely to follow up with them and give them your best when you've met them in person. So the opportunity could be that the person you're talking to, if you feel like you want to hire that person, being a real person in front of them and not a Google form, not a website form, is going to probably make them feel more connected to you, make that client relationship better. Now, for those of you who are in Oklahoma City, if you aren't part of Premium OKC Networking yet, I want to invite you to check it out. Premium OKC Networking is for you when you have decided that networking is going to be a tool that you're going to use to grow your business, and you aren't quite sure where the meetings are in the city to go to make the best use of your time. So Premium OKC Networking is the menu you order your favorite dish off of, only it's the most detailed menu you've ever read when it comes to places to connect in Oklahoma City. It is a community within the calendar platform, and it's a place where serious networkers get resources and get the calendar of networking events in Oklahoma City. And I offer in-person networking events quarterly for members only. So I want to invite you to check that out and come be a part of Premium OKC Networking. Go and network, my friend. And remember, when you're at the networking meeting, the work doesn't end when the meeting ends. That's just the beginning. And active listening during the meeting and then following up quickly and turning those conversations into even more opportunities are all really great ways to have success when you're networking.
You've been listening to the Networkers Tour Guide podcast with Faithann Basor. Share this episode with a friend and be sure to come back next week for more networking tips and tricks from the Networkers Tour Guide.